tell you that story sometime. It's good to see everybody this afternoon. I know that the Sunday sessions are a little lengthy, but I appreciate so much your attention and your interest. And there's a lot of training that has to take place for this to work. And we're leaving the elders and John a complete curriculum to help train every member, to make sure everybody understands their place, what they can do to contribute. So before I leave, though, I'd like to kind of present a congregational plan, kind of 10 steps that can be taken to at least initiate an evangelistic culture. We're trying to make a cultural shift. It's the hardest shift to make. If you've ever been with a business and it changed ownership and they bring in a new culture, you understand the complexity. And sometimes it's challenging for people to change the way they operate. And so we're not asking for any doctrinal changes, but obviously we're going to have to make changes with how we operate in order to reach the community. So I want to kind of put that into we call it kind of a 10-step plan. It will give you a kind of a general guide. We call this the 10,000-foot view. This is not designed to get down into the weeds. We'll do that later. But this will give you kind of an overview of how a church operates when it becomes an evangelistic body. Take your Bibles, if you would, to Ephesians chapter 4. As we begin our lesson together this afternoon, I want you to go to verses 11 and 12. So the apostles are setting up the church. And as the apostles are setting up the church, there are some steps they take to ensure that the people needed for the church to be matured are in place. And so Paul begins to enumerate the people. And this is what he says in verse 11. He gave some to be apostles. And so at this point, they had the apostles. They were in place and they were doing their job. Obviously, the apostleship office was limited, all right, to the first century, but necessary in order for the church to come into her maturity. And then some prophets, and so they had prophets, and this was a miraculous office. And so these prophets, again, having an ability that was needed, for they did not have the written New Testament. And so then he says, okay, some are evangelists. And so they needed evangelists. Evangelists were required. That is, people to go out and teach their neighbors and friends. That was a God-ordained office. Now, in today's church, we see the church has many descriptions for her people. And we have titles that we give the various members of the body. I'm not suggesting they're unscriptural. I'm just suggesting that these are scriptural. And it would be good if we would perhaps entertain the concept of having evangelists in our churches. And so one of the new, I would say, but old movements I'm seeing in churches of Christ are more elders saying, hey, instead of hiring an involvement minister, instead of hiring a family life minister, instead of hiring a family counseling minister, why don't we hire an evangelist? Let's hire someone whose only job, their only work is to do what this office is supposed to do. Well, the question is, what does an evangelist do? And I want to make the point, not everybody's an evangelist. We're not asking all of you to be evangelists, but every church needs some. Now, here's the point. Some pastors, that's elders, we have those today in the church, and teachers. Okay, here it is, verse 11. For the perfecting of the saints. For the equipping, the American Standard Version says, of the saints. Or for the maturity of the church. And it says, for the ministry, or the fulfilling of your ministry, to edify the body. And so what does Paul say in the first century about an evangelist? The purpose of an evangelist is to equip the church. And so when we look at evangelists, we're asking evangelists not to do all the work. That's impossible. John cannot do all the evangelism. When I was at the Willett Church, I felt a burden of a large church, no secretary, no associate minister, it's just me. And there were times I felt like I carried the church on my back, and it wears a preacher down. It's hard for a preacher to carry that, and the larger the church, the harder it is. And what I didn't understand at first was my job isn't to carry the church on the back. My job is to equip the members See, I'm as a preacher and evangelist, I'm training the membership. And so what we want to do today is provide the tools, the training, and the techniques for a local eldership and preacher to train the membership. So it's very obvious that not every member of this church needs to conduct a Bible study. I never thought I'd say that. But as I've matured and begun to realize that's not the talent of everybody. Although I'm not against it, I'm just saying that some people, that's just not where they shine. Okay? Let me put it like this. Some people shine at the door. They're naturally friendly. And when a visitor walks through the door, if you could pick the families you would want them to talk to, you could identify them. As an elder, you could say, okay, we would want them to talk to this family and this, but not Gabby Gossip. No, we would not want them to talk to Gabby, and we don't want them to speak to Frowny Fred. Oh, let's put Frowny Fred somewhere else. Frowny, would you sit over here? We don't want them to see Frowny Fred. No, we love Frowny Fred. But Frowny Fred is not the first face we want a visitor to see when they walk through the door. We don't want Frowny Fred grunting at them. Okay? And so we want them to speak to Smiley Sam. Smiley Sam is wonderful. Smiley Sam can talk to a wall, and it actually talks back. We've seen it. And so so we understand that everyone has different talents. And so not everybody's talent is to conduct a Bible study, and that's all right. Some people shine greeting visitors. And some people shine just writing a card. They can write the most touching card. And they can really make you feel the words. They're just good at it. That's not me, Keith. That's not who I am. So what does an evangelist do? An evangelist trains the church members how to do their job. What's it say in 1 Corinthians 12? For the body is not one member, but, help me, many. Are we all the hands? Thank God. Are we all the feet? No. Are we all the eyes? No. So every body has different members. So as a church, the job of an evangelist is, all right, let's train the different members to do their job. We all know this in the secular world. Are there things at your local business some people are good at and some people are not? And you put them, so I said this yesterday, at Walmart, when they hire someone in advanced age, maybe in their 70s, and they just need a job, where does Walmart put the 75-year-old man? In the stock room? No. Where does Walmart put them? Thank you. So do you make a punter into a linebacker? No. You let the punter punt. If you want to get killed, you put him on the line. All right, so what's the moral of the story? 1 Corinthians 12. Let the hand be the hand, John. Let the foot be the foot. Let the eye be the eye. But let's train the eye how to be the best eye it can be. Let's train the hand how to be the best hand it can be. So that's when we begin to realize that in evangelism, our job is to identify where people shine and then provide the training so that they can shine. That's what we're going to try to do. Now, in a nutshell, that is evangelism. And over the next 3 to 6 months, that's what we're going to try to accomplish together. All right, now, Winston Churchill, his speech before the Commons in the Parliament is considered one of the greatest speeches in world history. And in that speech, as he was trying to rally the people in a dispirited time, where the German Air Force was ravaging the skies, owning Britain, and the morale of the people had never been lower. It was Winston Churchill who said, He who fails to plan is planning to fail. My fellow countrymen, we have no plan and we're going to lose this war." And he put Britain on a war footing and really turned the country around. And if you've ever listened to the speech or studied it, you'll know it's supposed to be one of the greatest speeches in world history. But that phrase in that speech is telling. And so my question to every congregation is, what is the plan? So you've got a vacation plan. You may have a vacation account. Maybe it's your goal to take the Alaskan cruise. I know a lot of people, that's their ultimate dream, is to take that Alaska, and they'll save and plan down to the minute where they're going to be. I mean, it is an obsession to make sure that we're where we're supposed to be at the proper time, at the proper place, so we make sure we get the peak, out of our investment. And so we plan for Christmas. We have Christmas accounts, and now they're drained, but we have them, and we plan for Christmas. What's your plan to reach the lost? And that's why this is important. So throwing Jell-O at the wall and hoping it sticks isn't a plan. If you operated your business like that, I understand you work with you got a business, and if you operated your business like that, what would happen? You go bankrupt. You go bad really quick. You have to plan out. Where am I going to be 6 weeks from now? What are we doing today? And that's all I'm suggesting is that, gentlemen, you have been wired up. You've been built. God created you to do this. This is where you shine. Because men naturally are leaders. Men naturally, we fix things. We don't fixate on things. That's your wife. You fix them. You troubleshoot them. So it's important that men take the lead. Brethren, this is not a time for you to get in the back seat of the car and have your wife drive. This is the time for you to get in the driver's seat and lead the church. Number one, procure your equipment. You will not be successful in evangelism if you don't have the equipment. How many fishermen do we got? How many fishermen? Anybody fish? Anybody fish in this church? Raise your hand if you fish. All right, you got a tackle box? What's in that tackle box? Lures, swivels, line, pliers, knife. In that tackle box, you have equipment. Now, if you go out there early morning and you put your prize lure on there, you probably have one, and you get it out there, and you're sitting there for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and you have not a bite. What do? Change your lure. Your lure is not working. So here's what we know about fishermen, and you are a fisherman. Think about the word. You're a fisherman. That's your job. I think some of us have become cleaners of the aquarium instead of fishers of men. But your job is to fish for men. And so you got to get your equipment. You got to get a tackle box. And you got to start putting things in your tackle box that will help you reach people. You should have Bibles, lots of them. Bibles ready to give out. It doesn't go without saying that there are people around us that don't have Bibles. That used to not be the case. There are a lot of people that don't even have a Bible. And we need to make sure we have materials that we can use to teach them the Bible. So I always find it interesting when I read my Bible that when Jesus taught people, this is what he didn't do. Open up to Genesis 1 and read. Can I share with you what he did? Go to Luke. I think this is fascinating. I love this. Go to Luke. I think it's a fascinating account here in Luke chapter 24. Luke 24. All right. So this is after his resurrection. And it's probably, to me, one of the most intriguing parts of his entire ministry is that people did not know it was Jesus. And they were talking to him, and they didn't know it was him. And the buzz of the day was, hey, there's this Jesus, he's not in the tomb. He's not there. Where'd he go? And this buzz was just weaving itself through their culture. Now watch this. Jesus hears a group of people talking about him. They don't know it's him. He walks up, and this is what he says to him in verse 25. 24:25. O fools, slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Don't you know the prophets told you this would happen? Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and entered into his glory? Don't you know that this was supposed to happen? But I love the next verse. Now I want you to picture, hey guys, I want you to be in the crowd. And I want you to picture yourself. You're in the crowd and you have a pen and paper. And this man walks up and he starts talking, and you realize, man, this guy's smart. He's a teacher. And you start taking notes because you realize what he's saying is important. Now I want you to listen to what he said. You're taking notes. Watch this. And beginning at Moses. So he goes all the way back to Moses. And all the prophets, he goes to the prophets. He expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So what he did is he went back to Genesis and he pulls the verses out that talk about Jesus. Then he goes to Exodus and he pulls them out. And you're writing them down. And maybe you write down Genesis 3:15, the seed of woman. Maybe you write down Genesis 49, Shiloh's coming out of Judah. Maybe you write down, I don't know, Exodus, the Lamb of God for sinners slain. Maybe you write down Deuteronomy, the prophet like unto Moses. Maybe you write down Isaiah when he said, wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father. You're writing all these passages down. And you begin to realize, I've got a masterpiece. I've just listened to someone prove that Jesus is Christ from the Scriptures. You run home and you say, wow, man, I got to copy that. And you start copying it. And you make a copy for every family member. And you say, what are we going to call it? What if you called it back to the Bible? Do you know we actually have members of the church, and I've heard them, oh, you know, we don't need any tools. We just need the Bible. I believe we just need the Bible. But here's my question. When Jesus taught people the Bible, did he start in Genesis 1:1 just read? No, he did not. He pulled out the passages that were needed to teach the lesson. And that's what Back to the Bible does. It pulls out the passages to teach people. Book number 1, the authority of Christ. Book number 2, the church of Christ. Book number 3, the salvation of Christ. That's what Back to the Bible does. And so what we see in Luke 24 is what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people with tools. Jesus did the same thing. And so when someone says, well, we don't need open Bibles, we don't need Jewel Miller, well, how many people you baptizing? Just tell me, how many, whatever it is that you're doing, I'd like to know your results. But I know when we use Jewel Miller, we baptize people. How many of you were taught using Jewel Miller? Anybody here? Remember, there you go. We got people in this church because of that, right there. Open Bible Study by Ivan Stewart. Back to the Bible by Bobby Bates. Brother, we have the tools. The tools are, and there are other tools, good tools. And so first thing we need to do is procure the tools. We got to arm the people. We don't need to arm John. We need to arm these young men. We need to arm our families and say, here's your tackle box. So once you give them the tools, what do you do next? What would be a logical next step? Anybody? How about we make it where people can get them? We don't hide it. We don't lock it in the preacher's office. We don't put it in the library in a box. We don't stick it in the filing cabinet and no one knows where it's at. So when you go to work, in your job, you know, make sure that you are equipped with all the equipment you need, whether it's technology, whether it's tooling, machine shop tooling. One of the things you want to make sure your workers have is access to the tools. If they can't access the tools, what good is it? And so I'm going to tell you some true stories to make sure you understand the importance of this. So I go to a church. The church procures all the equipment. I train them, and then I wait. Every week I contact them. I'm a pest, John. Every week I'm going to reach out and say, what are you doing? And at first I got some pretty generic responses, and then the responses slowed, and I couldn't get any responses. None. End of the year comes by, I called one of the elders. I said, brother, what's going on? He said, Rob, we dropped the ball. Things got busy. We were pulled in this direction. Listen, we got to reboot. I said, okay. I said, we offer a refresh. We'll come in for one day. We do 4 lessons. We'll refresh. He said, we need it. So we came back in. So I walk in, and they're supposed to have all these tools everywhere because they purchased all the tools. And I look in their foyer. I see nothing. I go through my lessons on Sunday. I finish my lesson. I walk out of the building, and a young teenage boy, like your age, comes up and says, Mr. Rob. He grabs my coat pocket and says, you got those little booklets? I said, I just so happen to have them. Now, I want you to listen to what he said to me. It breaks my heart. This should have never happened. He said, could I have some? He said, I got a friend at school, and I want to teach him the gospel. I said, you can have as many as you want, son. How many you need? My blood was boiling because I know they have 400 sets somewhere in a closet where no one has access to them. Unacceptable. That should never happen. Brethren, I could sit here right now for the next hour and tell you story after story of things like this that are happening. Our brethren should have access to the tools they need, and they should not have to be begging people in order to do Bible studies. We ought to have an evangelism table out and all the materials sitting there so our people can have access to the tools they need to go fishing. Make sure they're accessible. Number 3. Oh, by the way, that's what an evangelism table might look like. You put all the material on it, you got the motto behind it, and what would be the logical next step? You own a business. Can I pick on you during this? Okay, brother, what is your first name again? John. Frowny Fred. No, surely not. Surely not. All right, John. All right. So, John, you go out there and you procure your equipment. You go out there and you put it out there on the shop floor so everybody get access to it. What's the next thing you would do? When you got the equipment, you got your people, what do you got to do next? Promote it. Okay, you're close. So you got some pretty expensive equipment. And you got people there. You got to train them how to use it. So what should we do with all this equipment? Train them. It's one of the mistakes we make. Brother, I grew up in the church. I grew up here. I heard Guy Woods when I was a young man. I mean, I heard Tom Hall. I heard some of the greats growing, Andrew Conley, Johnny Ramsey. I remember hearing it was a wonderful time in the church. Incredible preachers. No one taught me how to evangelize. I mean, I can tell you, I knew the 5 acts of worship, and I think we should I knew the steps of salvation. I knew the purity of the church. Here's what I didn't know. How do I teach my friends? So I'm in high school. I'm a senior, and there's a new member. His name's Wade Brown. The elders asked him to teach the teenage class. He walked in, and for the next 2 quarters, all he did was teach us how to evangelize. We baptized 19 people. Baptized my best friend, Mel. I went to our next friend. His name was Robert. Baptized him. Then we went to his mother. Baptized her. They're still faithful today. And we just kept going down the line. We just kept doing it. Someone taught me how to do it. You know why a lot of our young people don't evangelize? They have no idea how to do it. You want to know why a lot of our members aren't doing it? They have no idea. You want to know why a lot of our preachers aren't doing it? Why, John? Why aren't our preachers evangelizing? They don't know how. And we are being honest. It makes me no pleasure to say that. Our schools do not teach our preachers they teach them how to preach. Now we're changing that. We're in 11 schools right now teaching students how to evangelize. But there has gone through a period of time where our people literally don't know how to do it anymore. Now, when some of you guys are gray-headed, were growing up, did the church know how to evangelize? We were walking Bibles. In fact, one of my elders, Joe Lynn, he said, Rob, when I was a young man, when I just got married, he said, I had a film strip projector in my trunk of my car. He said, we literally, after work, went from house to house and we showed the movie. Jewel Miller film strips. And we just kept doing it. And I said, why'd you stop? He said, I don't know. He said, but maybe it's because the church got so full and our buildings were packed and we just stopped. And now we've got to re-engage. We've got to re-engage. So you got to train your people how to do it. So there's congregational training, John, that you do in front of the whole church. But then there's individual training. When you take a few people, a family, say, hey, would you work in this area? And we'll train you how to do it. All right, that's number 3. Number 4. There you go. We got 3 and 4 backwards. That's what you were looking for. Promote it. He knows as a businessman, if he doesn't promote his work, he goes bankrupt. And there are a couple of sayings in the business community. One of them is what gets pushed gets praised, what gets praised gets pushed. You got to promote it. You got to promote a mission, a culture in your church. And every member's got to understand that's who we are. That's what we do. And if we don't promote that culture in our church, it will not happen. Naturally speaking, we become lazy. That's natural for us. So if you don't drive it, every business has a driver. I bet you're the driver of your business. You drive it forward all the time. What happens if you start driving it forward? It stops immediately. It just stops. Every football team's got a driver, right? That drives the team forward. And sometimes a head coach realizes that's not my area of expertise. I'm not the best motivator. So he gets an assistant coach. Have y'all ever had an assistant coach? Man, I mean, he'd fire you up. I mean, he was good. I've seen that happen. So the head coach says, man, I got a deficiency. But I got to get a guy here who can fire up the boys and get them to play football. Well, you got to have a driver. Does the military have a driver? Yeah, we call it the sergeant. He's a driver. He makes sure that unit moves forward. But it's interesting to me that we see it in basketball, football, the army, our business. How about a family? Does a family need a driver? Yeah. What about the church? We got to drive it forward. It's got to be a mission every time we meet. So how many of you are familiar with the Roebuck Parkway Church of Christ years ago at north of Birmingham? Anybody ever hear that church, Roebuck Parkway? Brother Jenkins used to be the preacher there. Here's what was known of that church. It was to be like Madison in Nashville. What's Madison famous for? Largest Church of Christ in Tennessee. Ira North, right? Everybody knows Ira North's name. Okay. So they had Brother Jenkins. And Brother Jenkins was an incredible evangelist. I got the opportunity to go to that church 4 or 5 years ago. It's a shell of itself. Used to be 2,000 members. Now it's 400. And it's no longer called Roebuck Parkway. It's called Deerfoot Parkway. They moved it. And I'm sitting here with those elders, and some of those elders still remember Brother Jenkins. In fact, several of them remember him. And I asked the elders this question. I said, how did you guys become one of the largest churches of Christ in America? And one of the elders said, Rob, he says, when Brother Jenkins was here, he was the driver. He said, if it wasn't evangelism, we didn't do it. And he called it the funnel. He said he put the funnel in the church, and everything promoted evangelism. We did. And if it didn't go through the funnel, we didn't do it. He said, so if it didn't promote evangelism, it got shoved to the side. He said, because every time we met, we talked about soul winning. We talked about how do we reach A, B, C, D in this community. He said, it became the driving force of our church. We haven't had that for 20 years. From 2,000 to 400. It can happen. So we have to drive it forward, promote it. Let me give you an example of this. I think y'all might appreciate this. Anybody know the Carnes Church of Christ in Knoxville, Tennessee? Anybody ever been there before? Steve Higginbotham's a preacher, good man. Love Steve Higginbotham. I really love him. And in fact, he told me at Spiritual Sword Lectures, he says, you tell every eldership, hire an evangelist. And I'll tell you why he said that. So the Carnes Church asked me to come up, and they're going to enroll in the school. We're going to actually send a team to do some mission work with them in the local community. And one of the elders said, hey, Rob, when you get here, we have a backpack drive scheduled. He said, would you try to help us make that evangelistic? I said, sure, no problem. So I got there, and he introduced me to the deacon of the backpacks. So I went to the deacon of the backpacks. And then that deacon took me to the backpack room. And the backpack room had more backpacks than Walmart. I've never seen so many backpacks. And we had crayons and scissors and glue sticks, and don't forget the safety scissors. We had everything needed. It's all in a room. Then there's some orange cones, some yellow tape. He says, we're going to put that in the parking lot. We do it every year. I said, how many backpacks you give out? Oh, 400 or 500. I said, wow. Big event. He said, yeah. He said, Mr. Rob, the elder said we need to make it evangelistic. Do you have any suggestions? I said, I do. I said, put the backpacks in the classrooms. Huh? I said, yeah, put them in your classrooms. Well, Mr. Rob, I said, and then when people pull up, I want you to have your members in the hall, the foyer, send them out one at a time, and I want you to invite them inside your church building, because all benevolence is done inside the church building. You got to get them inside. Number 2, once they're inside, give them a open house tour of your church building. Make it look nice. Polish the pews, clean the pews, make everything nice. Take them to the classrooms. Go take them to the classroom where their children will be attending. Introduce them to the Bible class teacher. Let the Bible class teacher give the child the backpack. Let the teacher interact with the student. Then take him out to the fellowship hall, have a meal, always eat. Have a nice meal with them. Sit, talk, ask your 3 questions. They're the introductory questions. No Bible studies yet. Just get to know them. Give them a packet of information about the church, walk them out to their car. His response, Brother Rob, if we do that, we can't pass out 400 backpacks. I said, I know, but you'll have Bible studies. And they did. Brethren, they had 50 baptisms in year one. They had 47 this year. No, we didn't pass out 400 backpacks. I got a question. Is the job of the church to pass out backpacks? Since when have we become the Lions Club? This isn't Jimmy Carter's Habitat for Humanity. Brother, we're the Church of Christ. Our job is to save souls, period. I'll give backpacks out. That's fine. We gave some out. My job is to save souls. That's the funnel effect. That's what I'm talking about, number 4. Everything goes through the funnel. So we have a vacation Bible school. It's about the funnel. Vacation Bible schools are wonderful if they're funneled through evangelism. You'll save souls. When's the last time we had a soul saved because of EBS? It's embarrassing. I remember at Willette, I said, let's make it evangelistic. Instead of dressing me up like a clown and have me run up and down the aisle, why don't we make it evangelistic? Our vacation Bible schools have become embarrassing. But if we make them and we save souls doing it. I had a whole family baptized into Christ because of VBS. I just don't have time to tell you all the story, but it's amazing what happens when you do that. So at your job, your machine shop, you promote your work. Never let them forget why they're there. They have to understand that you're here for this purpose. Do our people know they're here for that purpose? All right, let's go to number 5. Number 5. I could tell you the story of Kim Bullock. That was because of this work. I just don't have time. Let's go to number 5. So we gotta produce contacts. That's important. So your job, you got your equipment, you put it out there on the floor so everybody has access. You train them how to use it. You promote your mission. You're getting it out. But now you need something else for your business to take off. There's something you need. Customers. You got to have customers. So how do we get customers? How do we get the people? Well, it's endless. It's absolutely endless. But we have to be intentional about it. So let me give you just a few things you can do. Number 1, make a target list. So I think it was last night or this morning, I asked a question. I said, how many of you know 10 people that are lost? Do you know 10 lost people at school? Do you know 10 lost people, Keith? It's harder for preachers because we're around the brethren. Do you know 10 lost people? So if we were to ask 180 people, John, in this church, do you know 10 lost people? How many customers did we just create? 1,800. Thank you. 1,800. And I just did that in 60 seconds. Okay, so we've got to create customers. We've got to get out to our communities, and we've got to meet with the people. Okay, Jesus did not come to call the righteous to repentance, but the sinners. We've got to get out to where the people are. Brethren, build it and they will come only works in the movies. It does not work here. They're not coming. It's obvious they're not coming. So if they're not coming to us, what must we do? Go to them. When you first started your business, did you ever have cards you'd hand out or advertise? And you may not have needed to do that.
Yeah, well, it's a family business.
Family business.
It's handed down.
Yeah. So it's word of mouth.
It's word of mouth. And
existing customers.
What I do is, we have salesmen come in and they actually give me a lot of work.
Absolutely.
I talk to them, build a relationship with them, and they...
Ever take them out to eat? Do they ever take you out to eat?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Food works with machine shops too, doesn't it? All right, let's go. So what's the next thing? We're going to promote our church. We're going to make sure everybody in the community knows we're here. And so it's important to promote, advertise. If advertising and promotion did not work, do you think Walmart would do it? No, it's a waste of money. You got to advertise and promote. So you got a little business with dogs, you said back there. Brother, what's your name? Lee. And do you have to promote what you do? Yeah, absolutely. If you stop promoting, what happens? You can't feed your family. No contact. So you got to promote it. So you use social media, website, whatever you need. You know, what I love about House to House is that, what's the cost of a stamp? Anybody know what a stamp costs? It's unreal. So we got an 8-page color magazine. Now remember, a stamp costs 70-some cents. We get an 8-page color magazine that advertises your church, that puts your Facebook page, your website, your time of services, contact information. The back page allows you to advertise events that you're going to do at the local church. We print it for 25 cents, less than a stamp. We mail it for 25 cents, less than a stamp. That means the government is ripping you off 70-some cents. We do 8 pages in color for 25 cents. And we're promoting our churches all over the nation and saying, come to this church. Come here. Come here. Here's who we are. Here's where we are. Here's our social media page. Here's our website. Y'all got a great website. Whoever does that, good job. Facebook page. Here's our Facebook. Here's our videos. Here's the sermons. So we've got to promote who we are. What happens when you promote the church? So I got home from a 3-week trip. I'd just come back from Texas. My wife went to see her mom. I was at Jacksonville. I sat over here on the right-hand side. And I pulled over my shoulder, and on the back corner, there's a woman that came in and sat down. And I didn't know her. Which is not unusual because I'm not home a lot, but I just could not place her at all. So Alan finishes his sermon, Alan Webster. He walks down the aisle. I get right behind him. Alan, who's that? He says, visitor, never seen her. I said, yes, I love visitors. They excite me. And so I immediately went to sit down. I think I had one row. I sat behind her, I believe. The closing prayer was sung or said. She stands up, turns around. There I am. Ma'am, I said, are you visiting this morning? She says, I am. I said, well, my name's Rob Whitacre. I'm one of the members here. She said, well, my name is Ellen Bethea. I said, well, Ellen, are you in the local community? She said, just down the road. I said, we're so glad you came here. Are you alone or somebody with you? She said, well, my husband, but he got sick and I had to take him home. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, Ellen, did you like the worship service? Oh, I loved it. I said, what'd you like about it? Oh, that preacher of yours, he sure does love the Bible. This is so easy. It's like taking candy from a baby. I mean, she is setting it up for me. All I got to do is breathe and love people for the Bible study to happen now. I looked at her and I said, Alan sure does love the Bible. And I said, Ellen, I sure would like to meet your husband. She said, you know what? I'm going to bring him back. Do you have an evening service? Glad we weren't closed. I don't know why churches of Christ are closing their worship services. I can't tell you guys how many times I'm driving home on a Sunday afternoon and I want to stop in a Sunday evening worship and I can't find a church that's open. Why, when things get difficult, do we worship less? Doesn't make any sense to me at all. So in any case, I said, yes, we're open 6 o'clock. She said, I'll bring my husband. So she brings her husband, right? And so in the back of they're sitting down. After services, we begin to interact. And I said, hey, Perry, we got a little custom at this church. He said, his name's Perry. He said, well, what is it? I said, we always take visitors. What do? Out to eat. I said, Perry, what's your favorite restaurant? He said, Athena's. Oh, my, Athena's. Oh, I don't ask that question anymore. I choose. And so I said, well, Terry, I'll take you to Athena's. You will? I said, sure, why not? Oh, man. Oh. He said, my stomach's a little queasy tonight. I don't want to miss Athena's. Can I take a rain check? I said, sure. He said, what about Tuesday? I said, I'll have the reservations made. Made the reservations. Terry and Ellen and Perry sit down around the table. I could care less about the lasagna that night. I have one mission, one thing, I will get it. I sat around the table and we're talking. And I got to find a sweet spot. What do you like? I'm going through my questions. He says, I love sports. I said, me too. I said, Perry, you like NFL football? No. Bunch of thugs. I don't watch that anymore. I said, me neither. No football. I said, no thugs. Disrespectful to the flag. Disrespectful. I said, yep. I said, NBA basketball? No. I said, Perry, what do you like? He said, it's all in the college, Rob. I said, okay, yeah, college ball. Yeah. What team do you like? He said, go Alabama. Oh, no. Go Alabama. If I've got to like Alabama football to get a Bible study, so be it. I don't care. I said, you got a great coach, Perry. Yeah, Nick Saban. Boy, we got a statue of Nick Saban just went up. I said, no, we call that idolatry. I did not say that. I did not say that. So we're just, you're just having a good time. And And then I said, Perry, the national championship game's tomorrow. He said, yeah. I said, Alabama didn't make it. He says, I know, Rob. And I said, Perry, are you going to watch it? Yeah. I said, you know what? Why don't you come over to the house? We'll have a football party, and we'll watch. What in the world was that? That was my wife kicking me because she did not know about this party. And she kicked me right in the shin because she didn't want me to have a party. And I said, yes, come on over. We're going to have a party. He said, wonderful. He looks at his wife. Can we go to their house for the party? She goes, Nicole, what can I make? And my wife says, nothing like this. You know when you're in trouble. I'm in trouble. And so in any case, they come over to the house for the party, right? Just them. They are the party because I have one mission. Okay. In any case, we sit down and we're watching the football game. It's a blowout. Turn it off. Halftime. Perry, I said, can I ask you why you visited the Jacksonville Church of Christ? His answer, 21 years ago, I got this publication. I read it every time. He said, your church follows the Bible, mine doesn't. I said, what do you mean? He said, my church just voted to have homosexual marriage. And I know that's not what the Bible teaches. And I'm looking for a church that follows the Bible. I said, Perry, I just so happen to have these little booklets. They're called Back to the Bible. Would you like to know more about our church? He said, I kind of would. And we baptized him. We baptized his wife. But we're not done. He has a son. His name's Nick. He's 23 years old. Nick's he's gone on the wrong path. Not on the wrong path anymore. It's amazing what happens when the gospel gets somebody. He changed his whole life around. Goes to school. Gets his degree. And now he's working, I think it's called electrical technology at a local factory. And he's faithful. We promote our church. We're a hospital, we're not a hospital for the healthy. We're a hospital for the sick. Remember that? That's right. We advertise our events on the back. So are there things you can do at this church where the community will come? Yeah. Trunk or treat, they'll come. VBS, they'll come. I remember the first time we had a VBS at Willette. I walked into the auditorium, there were 400 people in there. I looked at the elders, I said, where do these people come from? Oh, it's VBS, Rob. I know this is your first one. I said, it's a gold mine. Oh, yeah. I said, look at all the people we could teach. Of course, they just wanted me to dress up like a clown and run up and down the aisle. And I did what I was told because I want to feed my family. I didn't do that the next year. The next year, we made an evangelistic plan. And we started saving souls. But you can promote a VBS. You can promote a trick or trunk. You can promote a marriage Sunday where you say, come this Sunday if you want to know more about marriage. Come if you want to know about parenting. And you can advertise, and advertising is important. And so we give things away like free big old poster boards and various quizzes we give out. And people take them, and there's so much we're doing. And then you get this. I remember when Deb Rice called me, she says, hey, Rob, we got someone in the community who wants to know more from house to house. They want to know more about marriage. And we'd advertised, if you want to know more about marriage, we'll send you marriage material. Well, they called. And Deb got their address. And so what I did is I took that address and I went to their home with my wife. Now, you should never go to the door alone. Brother, when they see you come to the door, they're not going to open it. You know why? You got that beard right there. You're stroking it. When they see you at the door, they're not opening it. You scare them to death. But if you were to take your wife, they'll open it. Always take a woman or a child. It's a rule. And so we use that. They saw my wife. They opened the door. Her name's Brenda. She said, yes. I said, Brenda, my name's Rob, my wife, Nicole. And I said, you asked for some marriage material. She said, I did. I said, we have brought it for you. We had a video, we had books and tracts, and just gave it to her. She said, that was so nice of y'all. I said, Brenda, did you just get married? I did. I said, well, that's wonderful, Brenda. I said, tell me who's the lucky man. Well, his name is Daniel. I said, Daniel. I said, good, wonderful. I said, tell me, did you just move here? I did, from Oxford. I said, wonderful, Brenda. I said, Brenda, do you know anything about the area? Not a lot. And she said, by the way, where are you from again? I said, well, house to house, heart to heart. You know anything about churches in the area? I said, a little bit. She said, well, you know, we don't have a church yet. I said, well, let me tell you about this Jacksonville church over here. So we talk a few minutes. Then she said this, blew my mind. She said, sir, she said, I got a question for you. I said, what is it? She said, do you know anything about the Bible? The Lord has sent her. And I said, I know a little bit about the Bible. She said, good, because my husband knows nothing about the Bible. I'm watching this woman. Brother, this is exactly what she did. She leaves the door. She goes over to her sofa. She shakes this huge man on the couch like this. And he wakes up. He's 6'7". I mean, he's 6'5". He's a massive man. It's a big man. Gets up. He comes to the door. And this is what she told me. She said, this man I'm married, he comes home every day and gets on the couch. I don't know what he does all day. She says, he knows nothing about the Bible. Daniel, we're going to teach you the Bible. You could have blown me over. I said, when do you want to start? She said, tomorrow. I said, my wife will bring cookies. Always eat. We baptized 7 people because of that knock on the door. They have cousins, uncles, aunts. It's amazing what happens when we get out of the pews. There are Daniels in this community. They're everywhere. They're all over America. We knock on some doors. Oh, no, Rob, that doesn't work. You know, that's a waste of time. All right, there are the numbers. I've done this all over the country. I've done it in Illinois, North Carolina. I've done it at Carnes. I've done it all over the nation. I get the same results almost every single time I do it. You say, well, Rob, what does that mean? Let me share with you. All right. That first Sunday, we went to 342 houses. We talked to 135 people. Nobody else would answer the door. It's okay. I'm only concerned about that 135. Of the 135 people we talked to, 40 of those people became contacts and expressed interest in the church. Do you know what that percentage is? I put it on the board. What's the percentage there? If your financial advisor gave you a 30% rate of return, would you be happy? Let's go down the list. You see Thursday? You see that rate of return? That's pretty good, isn't it? That's called new movers. If you do it correctly, we average about a 75 to 80% return on those. I want to teach you how to do that. We do it all over the country. New movers, very effective. If you do it right, it can be a very effective ministry. People are moving into the community. They have no church home. Why not come here? Now, brother, what is your name? Mike, when you were growing up, people were different. If you're a Methodist and you move to another town, guess where you're going to church? The Methodist church. If you're a Baptist, you go to move to another town, where do you go? The Baptist. You know what people do today? They go to this church over here in this town. They go to the next town. There's no telling where they'll go. The loyalty is gone. They just want to go to church. My question to you all is, why not come to McEwen? They will come if you go to them first. We need to send you to their door. And we're going to personally give them gifts and welcome them to the community. We're not going to do a chivalry. They don't understand what that means. But we're going to welcome them in a big way. And we're going to make sure those people know how much we care. We're going to send cards, lots of cards, 3 to 4 cards every day per contact. It's going to be a massive effort of the church. So every Sunday you got to meet for about 30 minutes, and you got to divide up into your teams. You got to write cards, lots of them. For those of you in the audience who are saying, oh, no, I don't want to write a card. Listen to me carefully. More people are baptized because of cards than anything we do in our school. That is the number one source of baptisms right there. So when I track my numbers, nothing beats that. It works. It's very effective. I don't have time to explain it all, except that that's part of the, you see what she's holding, don't you? Cards. When I walked into her house, my wife and I sat down. She was a contact. We prospected her with cards. Now I need to turn that into a Bible study. It's step number 3. I'm sitting there talking to her, and she says, now what did you say your name was? My wife said, Nicole. Oh, Nicole. Oh, your card's over there, honey. She knew where my wife's card was. She said, I read them every day. Got 75 cards from y'all. I said, Bettina, would you like to know more about the church? I sure would. I just so happen to have these little booklets. What, you have any guesses as to what's going to happen when we finish the study? What do you think is going to happen?
She's going to want to know more and be a part of it.
Okay, and she's going to do what? Anybody have a guess what she's going to do? What's step 4? It's that red circle.
Be better.
It's not rocket science. You find people, you love the people, you care for them, you form relationships, you teach them, you baptize them. There's no theological school that can do better than Jesus. That is the gospel. And that's what we're trying to help people learn how to do. Visitors, you got to learn what to do when a visitor walks through the door. Well, brethren, if you don't know what a visitor wants, then you can't offer it. John, you can't give the answer. You're not allowed. I know you know the answer. What's the number one thing a visitor wants when they walk through the door? What do they want? Pew Research Center has done the research. We bought in the results. We know. It's the same results every year. Never changed. There's one thing a visitor wants when they walk through your doors. Does anybody know what it is? Attention. It's on the list. Church family. It's on the list. Belonging, sense of belonging. Say again. Connections. It's on the list. It's not number one. Number one far exceeds everything else. How many of you ever visit churches when you travel? Anybody ever visit churches? Okay. With your family, visit another church. How many children do you have? 2. How old are they? 10
and 8.
All right. Perfect. All right. So you got your family together. You're visiting this church. You walk in. You've never been here before. You don't know anybody. You walk through the doors. What do you want to do? Thank you. That's the number one answer. Sit down. Is that important to know? It is, because when a visitor walks through the door, they want to sit down, and we do everything but let them. Have you ever seen the welcome committee? The welcome, have you ever seen it's on wheels, the welcome station? You ever been to they have the big welcome station? As you walk in through the church, when they're moving the welcome station at you, it's like kind of Pigeon Forge, the people sell the stuff. You can't get through Walmart without them grabbing you. I avoid those people. When visitors walk through the door, they want to sit down. So we should have door greeters at the door that smile, invite them in, and say the auditorium's right through there. Take any seat you want. And when they sit in the pews, we should have pew greeters, trained, highly skilled Navy SEALs that move in and sit down right next to them. Maybe you're a Navy SEAL, and your wife sit right next to them. But you said you're Mr. Frowny. You can't do it. Okay. But if you were Mr. Smiley, you would sit next to him, and you know what we'd say? We have a script. You're going to memorize it. You visiting? You visiting with us this morning? And you say, yeah, I'm visiting. Hey, my name's Rob. What's your name?
Jack.
Hey, Jack, nice to have you. You live locally?
No.
Oh, no, you got to live locally for this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, well, great. We're glad. Hey, we got a gift for you, Jack. I'll be right back. And we're going to go get our visitor bag full of nice little things. Our ladies make these. I'm going to come back and give you the visitor bag, which is a gift. Our church has a gift for you, Jack. And so Jack's looking through the bag. That's really nice of you. Hey, by the way, Jack, you know what? We're a card-sending church. We love to send cards to visitors. Jack, would you mind giving me your, is it Jack?
Yes,
What's your last name, Jack?
Grigsby.
Grigsby. And Jack, where do you live? What's your address?
4817.
4817. And guess what I'm doing, by the way? I'm filling out a contact card. What's the number one job for a church when a visitor walks through the doors? John, what's the number one thing you want?
Contact information.
Thank you. Why? Why do we want contact information? So we can contact them. Is a visitor who walks through the doors a contact? No. Not until you get the information. What's the traditional way we get that information? I'll show you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, visitors. We have a card in the pew back in front of you. If you'll take that card and fill it out, we have young men that will be glad to pick it up at the appropriate time if you'll fill out that card. Here's my question. Do visitors fill out cards? Traditionally, do they do not? They don't like to do it. They don't want to do it. Jack, I filled out the card. You gave me your name and address. What do you think the percentage of would be of visitors who will always give me their name and address when I give them a gift? Like 98%. The 2% who refuse to give me their name and address, do you know what we call them? Serial killers. Alert. Watch them very carefully. Okay, that's right. They're on the sex offender list, more than likely. I'm not kidding. They won't give you their name and address because they don't want you to know who they are. So it's strategic. That's step one. Let's go to step two. After services, hey, Jack, what'd you think of our worship today? What'd you think of the preacher? Just be honest. What do you think of him? Loved him. Oh, wow. Boy, good. And I said, hey, Jack, my wife and I like to take people out to eat. Our treat, favorite restaurant, we'll take you out to eat if you like. That's step two. So step one is contact. I did that, step one. Step two is prospecting. I'm going to do that over a meal. Now, if you don't train the people and be intentional about that, will anything I just taught you happen? No. Parks and recreation. Did you ever train the people? Was training required? Happen every year? You got to train the people. How often do you train your employees? Every day? Yeah, just about. So it's a lifestyle of training, isn't it, constantly? You hire a new guy, you put him with an experienced guy so they can train him how to use the equipment?
No, just throw him out there. No.
Yeah, that's right. Just do the best you can. And then take a $100,000 piece of machinery and tear it up. That's right. So I'm just trying to relate to you fellas, all right? We understand this as men in our secular lives. We understood this in our business lives. We understand it in our sports lives. We have to understand it here. And you guys can do this. I'm done. I got a lot more material I could cover with you. I'm just going to finish right there because I'm not here to do the training, brethren. I'm just here to show you a path. It's possible. You can do it. John and Aaron are a wonderful family. I don't know how many people, John, have come up and said, we've got the golden goose here. They love you and your family. I know from talking to John, they love you. You got good elders. You got deacons. You got great young people. You got everything you need for this to work. I cannot wait to see what happens in this church. I love you guys. I mean it. Thank you for being here. Let's pray. Our Father, we're thankful for these men. We're thankful for their love for the church. We're thankful, Father, for the leadership of the elders. We're thankful for John and his ministry. We're thankful for Keith and his work. And bless his congregation. We pray, Father, for good. May they be a bright and shining beacon of light of Jesus in this community. May souls be saved. Pray for our families. Pray for our children. Pray for our country. For we know righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. May we humble ourselves and call upon our God. Hear our prayer. May the church of Christ grow again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.